One of the consoles I've always grew up playing was Nintendo 64, and one of the things is that I'm happy that this game, Kidz 64, well, a Nintendo 64 Inspired Game, is coming to the Nintendo Switch for the first time ever within the coming weeks. So you guys can play this game in a Nintendo 64 authentic experience, or you guys can play this in HD modernized version of the game. But there's so many options in the game that you guys can play when it comes to video quality itself. You guys can play a game in 240p or 360, and there's some blur effects. But you guys can even play it in 4:3 or maybe the modernized 16:9 resolution. But what am I saying? There happen to be some Nintendo 64 games that do, in fact, support widescreen mode, like GoldenEye, or probably some of the other Rarity games you probably never heard of, or maybe you have played and you don't even realize it. Now, this game originally came out on Steam, as this game was only supported with a gamepad in mind. So if you guys have a Steam account, you can only play this game by using a controller. I mean, it doesn't really matter which controller you use, as long as you guys are going to have an enjoyable experience. Now, unlike the other games I've played that are Nintendo 64 Inspired Game, besides Cavern of Dreams, this one has you collect these cubes, and with these cubes, you need to start leveling up yourself. The reason I say this is because if you don't level up, you won't be able to progress through the game, because it is required for certain doors to be open, or maybe certain levels to be completed. And there are going to be some cases where you may backtrack because of certain level requirements. Now, this game kind of like plays some sort of parkour like, because you can drill your head to a wall and then do a bounce, and then you can go grab whatever item you needed, whether it be like a key item or perhaps one of those cubes like I've previously mentioned, so that way you can level up. You gotta use your skills within you, so that way you can be able to complete these levels with no problem, or you just gotta perfectly time these things as well. But don't worry, there'll be sticky notes and whatever else there is too, so that way the game will tell you how to play the game, so that way you'll have no problem completing the game. At times, there'll also be some challenging levels for you guys to complete, but if you guys are a pro at Super Mario 64, you'll have no problem completing these things. But don't worry, they ain't gonna like punish you or nothing. But the only thing is that you need to complete these levels with these mirrors. They're just special levels, but if you climb up to these things, or at least do some sort of obstacle they tell you, then you'll get yourself some sort of reward for doing such thing. So keep an eye out for these mirrors in the game when it comes to playing it, and make sure you test your skills, and that way you'll be able to have no problem completing them. But like I mentioned before, if you guys know what you're doing in terms of Mario 64 way, then you'll have no problem. But just like Super Mario 64, this game does have at times camera issues, and that's just the way Nintendo 64 games were. So if you guys are not a fan of that, well, I just can't tell you, you're just gonna have to get used to it, because that's how these things were back in the day. If you can't handle it, then I don't know, this probably not be the game for you, unless you can somehow overcome the problems, and then you'll be able to have no problem beating the game or some of the levels that you can say. Now, just like Mario or maybe Banjo-Kazooie, there's going to be people for you to talk to, and then you can do some stuff that'll give you some sort of reward. So keep an eye out for some of these dudes whenever you play some of these levels. Now look, when I get the time and day to review this game, I'll definitely mostly talk about it once I progress through enough of this game. But for right now, I do think it's a great game to play if you guys are a Nintendo 64 fan, or at least just want something retro you like to play. Now, I didn't hear about this game until I was researching some Nintendo 64 inspired games on Steam, and this is one of the games that popped up, and then I saw the game trailer itself, and it makes perfect sense. The graphics look apart, the gameplay looks apart, especially the camera angles, which they really know how to make up some terrible camera angles just to have the Nintendo 64 feel to it. And don't worry, when the game comes to Nintendo Switch, it's dirt cheap. But what am I saying? The game is dirt cheap, so you're gonna have no problem like spending money on this game. So all I can say is that all I can say is that I think you guys are gonna have a great time playing this game. So just take it from me, who's pretty much enjoy his own experience. So once I keep playing more of this game, I'll definitely do a full-on review of the game at some point in the future. But I just want to give you guys an example that this game is coming to the Nintendo Switch. So hopefully, if you guys are not aware about this game, I hope I made you guys aware about this game, as there are going to be some tricky platforms, just like Super Mario 64, unless if it's like a ROM hacker who just likes to make things more challenging than the original game itself.